Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Meghan. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast, brought to you by our special guest and sponsor, Cleary. We are so glad you're joining us here at Talent Culture, the place to find meaningful connections at work. Here at Talent Culture, we are excited to reveal our brand new website very soon. It includes a better podcast experience for all of you who visit and listen to Work Trends episodes. I'm doing this for you, so look out on talentculture.com. I'm your host, Meghan, and today we're talking about something that drastically impacts day-to-day experience of millions of people who go to work every day. But before we jump into today's podcast, go ahead, ask yourself these two questions. Are you ready to really improve the employee experience in your organization? And what does a positive workplace culture look like to you? Let's take a look at some insights to set the stage. According to Zippia, paying tribute to important moments or a job well done goes beyond making employees feel warm and fuzzy. It has a direct connection to their productivity, commitment, and retention. Their recent findings show that strong employee recognition programs reduce turnover by 31%. 37% of employees, they say that the best way to increase engagement is through manager recognition. And 92% of workers are likely to repeat an action if they are recognized for it. 80% said they would work harder if they felt more appreciated. And 1 in 3 report that they have not received any recognition in over a year, if at all. So we've rounded up some stats that may or may not surprise you, but are so very telling about why this is such an important topic. According to Deloitte, 94% of executives and 88% of employees believe a distinct corporate culture is important to business success. From Harvard Business Review, companies with a strong corporate culture see 4 times increase in revenue growth compared to companies with a weak culture. Glassdoor found that companies with high Glassdoor ratings, which are based on employee reviews, by the way, tend to have better financial performance than companies with low ratings. And 71% of their employees believe that a positive onboarding experience is important to their decision to stay with the company. Gallup states that engaged employees are 27% more productive and 17% more profitable than disengaged employees. So, here to discuss the topic of employee recognition and the overall employee experience is co-founder and CEO of Cleary, Thomas Kunjappu. Thomas Kunjappu is the co-founder and CEO of Cleary, a company dedicated to revolutionizing employee experiences in the digital age. Under his leadership, Cleary concentrates on amplifying engagement in remote and hybrid work environments, utilizing rich expertise to really tackle the intricacies of modern workplace challenges. You can find him in a lot of places because he's a bit of a mover and a shaker, and we're a big fan of his here, but you can follow him on Twitter at Thomas, Kunjappu. Don't be shy out there, Work Trends community. This is a pretty cool person, so there you go. I'm so thrilled to have you here today, Thomas.
Excited to be here, Meghan.
Well, let's get this party started, shall we?
Let's do it.
So, can we begin by discussing the concept of the employee experience? How has it evolved in a post-pandemic world?
Well, the concept of the employee experience in general came from the original concept around the customer experience, where it became clear that if you're a business of any type, it's really maybe important to understand what your customers are going through along every step of the journey. Like if you're a bicycle store, like you're hoping they come in, but then you want your sales team to be courteous when your customers step into the store. You want them to be helpful. If someone needs service calling on the phone, you want it to be picked up quickly with good and useful answers. And of course, you want the product that you're selling to be great. And you want to be thinking about warranties and the entire process overall. And that has been something with the concept of customer experience. We've started really seeing companies instrument that at scale with processes and feedback loops to ensure that customers have a good experience. Well, who especially for modern companies with a lot of knowledge workers, where human capital represents the biggest investment in the entire customers. It's who actually takes care of the customers. It's the employees. And so the concept of the employee experience really flew out of that, where you can think about every step in the journey that your employees take, from how did someone find out about your company? Did they hear good things about it? And when they first applied, and what was their interview experience like? How was onboarding? How are all those moments that matter in that journey as they go from someone who's never heard of this company to someone hopefully who's been there for many years and is productive and engaged employee there? And thinking about that, thinking of your employees as your customers to then enable everything else, that's really what the employee experience is. It's all about. With a post-pandemic world, I think everyone out there has felt it. It's very different to be an employee in a remote or hybrid world. And it's very different.
Wait, hold on. Understatement of the century. Like, things just are never going back to the way they were. I'm here as a futurist to celebrate that today, but it's real. And I love the fact that your company and brand is really caring about the employee experience, because it's really, from a business perspective, it's imperative. And it's so fascinating to see all these mental shifts post-pandemic. Plus, all you new generations out there, I see you out there working, right? I mean, there's a lot going on, right?
There really is. And work has just gotten more distributed, flexible, and dynamic. That's the way I think about it post-pandemic. And interestingly, from my perch, so I've been working in the technology world for a while. And these type of forces in the labor market, the way I see it is that the way technology companies, where they're in highly competitive labor markets, who've been thinking about the employee experience because, well, it's really tight and hard to find great folks in a lot of very specialized skill sets of roles. These companies have evolved in this direction to, for example, offer flexibility. So 10 years ago, it's not unheard of for many tech companies to have one or two people who've been working remotely, flexibly in a different part of the world. It's just that that's become more and more common and normal. And when you have, 5% of the workplace working in this sort of other, let's call it, way to 50 or 100%, it just means it's a dramatically different way that you need to think about it if you want to support the employees.
So who should ultimately be responsible for ensuring that employees are engaged and recognized? Like, talk to us a bit about what's a best case scenario here.
This is an interesting question. So, if employees are focused on the customer so they can have a great experience and every aspect of your product, all your departments and your operations, it's really, if you follow this leadership mindset, it's really leadership and management that is then enabling and focusing on employees, right? That's arguably the sole job, especially of executive leadership, is really just getting the right people in the right places and then helping the whole company grow in the same direction. And of course, the people team gives them leverage, right? And HR has shifted from HR only focused on ensuring the company doesn't get sued to a people team that's trying to actively ensure that there's a good labor market and good talent brand for the company. And so it's really leadership management with the people team giving them leverage. Now, interestingly, because a lot of people work in software all day, IT arguably is also part of this, right? So IT is shifting in some ways also to be a service organization helping with the employee experience. You're just seeing a lot of, I would say, remixing of different roles from, like, say, the facilities role. So all the folks who are thinking about, all of the physical real estate and office space that a company has and how that's evolving, to thinking about workplace experience and how you might actually break down what were the benefits of the office and how can the people in those departments, sometimes now called workplace experience, do things for folks outside of the office. Internal communications is a big piece of it. HRBPs, people operations, HRGs. So there's a lot of different functions that come together, and that's a good thing and a bad thing in some ways, right? And I think because this remixing, because it's everybody's problem, it's sort of, does anyone truly own it? That's one of the challenges. You've seen head of remote show up. I've seen from some of our customers at Cleary, the IT team reporting into the HR team or the facilities team.
Hey, it's about time. Hey, you know what? I've been talking about it for a couple years now. IT and HR and marketing. It goes on and on. But, these are really excellent insights, Thomas. It really seems that having true ownership over the employee experience is an important distinction. Instead of having it be a nice to have, have, it actually becomes ingrained in the culture as something leaders are held accountable for actively managing. So really, really important. And, tell us, how is Cleary helping close that gap on what employee engagement recognition used to look like versus how it's defined in today's post-pandemic workplace?
Yeah, so we found ourselves lodged right in there. So the concept of Cleary really grew out of my previous work that I used to do. So I founded Cleary. Just before that, I was leading a team at Twitter, now X, which built internal tools that employees would use every single day. And really, it was a people team that we worked with, but really cross-functioning with an entire set of teams to build these bespoke internal tools that the company would leverage every day. The tools broadly fit into 3 different categories, which continue to be what we are building towards with our vision for what a great workplace of tomorrow would look like with an excellent employee experience. So communications, culture, and team efficiency. And it all comes together with all these journeys and moments that matter for employees, starting with onboarding. Our tools and what we do replaces like this legacy category of company intranets, which are these stodgy places where you have a lot of files that are documented that no one ever looks at.
Yeah, I'm like, what? What's that?
Right. So the fact that there's these trends about a more dynamic workplace and one that's more distributed and obviously more flexible, aka office optional, what that means is a lot of the crutches that we used to have just don't exist anymore, right? So we really try to step in there wherever we see those things lacking. So with communications, so we can help companies get the right information to the right group at the right time via the right channels. And that's very complicated today. So if you have a software engineer in the Melbourne, Australia office, they need something very different potentially from your executive team in terms of communications compared to someone in the sales team in California. And maybe someone is in one tool in Slack or Teams while another person's in email. So this concept of needing a central hub of communication really changes. And that internal communications function, which is often shared by lots of other groups, is something that we can really help with our modern tools. And then, of course, there's company culture, which I think for any of the listeners of this podcast, you know how important culture is and how it is very difficult to sort of start up again if you are not meeting each other 9 to 5 in the office every day. So what we do there is we offer a bunch of tools around employee directories and understanding cross-functional organizations, public recognition in the form of badges that map to company values, and much, much more. I'll just give you one example from one of our customers that we worked with where they really wanted to increase the level of gratitude felt and recognition within the organization. And there's a lot of power in data. So one of the things that we did was we're hooking into the calendar data. So getting a sense of which groups and people are meeting with which other groups. And then based on that, recommending people that you might want to send a shout out to. And it was dramatically able to increase public recognition within the company, and that sense of gratitude. And really that combination of intrinsic data sets and combining that to get to an affect can really be a place that any modern organization can look at to improve engagement with a digital tool such as ours. And on the efficiency side, it is just really different. If you're an employee that's, especially a new employee coming in remotely, it's just, you don't know where to go, how to start, who do I shoulder tap when someone's not really next to me all the time. And even with the return to office that's been happening, we're at the end of 2023 here, right? But the percentage return to office, just based on the commercial real estate information out there, it's really stalled out in 2023 at about 50% of where we were at in 2019, even though there's been this massive pushback. So if this is with us, just helping employees find information and get to the right people at the right times, that's a huge part of what we're doing. So for example, with onboarding, from the moment a candidate accepts an offer, our platform helps guide that employee from day, say, -30 to day 1 to, all the way to the first year in a very orchestrated, streamlined employee onboarding journey that really helps the company put their best foot forward when a new employee comes into the company.
So Thomas, what are some of the tactics and resources that you recommend leaders use in your platform, and what kind of responses are they receiving?
Right. So something we are proud to have just launched is our Cleary internal communications and AI capabilities. So what we've done is analyze thousands and really tens of thousands of different types of content that various customers have been pushing through to their employees via our product over the last several years and trying to come up with themes and templates, because we've just seen that HR teams have been forced to do more with less in 2023. And one of the things that is inarguably important and yet falls by the wayside to the bottom of the list is just getting the right type of internal communications flowing through the company. And so we've got now dozens of templates of best practices around internal communications for that moment when you have a new exec joining, for example, or if you want to do a key strategic product update, or if you're looking to do a people operations change management type of announcement. We've got these templates that'll help you get started much faster than if you're staring at a blank canvas.
I just like that you said that. Yeah, exactly. It's like, get started because it's right here. Again, we don't need HR and marketing for that matter, IT, whoever, and we hope more people than not are collaborating on this, but we don't need more work. And I love the fact that you're like, everybody's doing more with less. I just need to chime in and say so much the case, especially right now.
It really is. And we've really been trying to lean into that and say, how can we help in that area, and really giving people time back while still holding on to that ultimate goal, right? Which is that you really want to create a great workplace. I think that's why most folks get into this business, right? People tend to be people. And yet when times are lean, the focus ends up being on the compliance layer and just making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, which of course you need to do. And so we really want to help people still keep those standards high with their employee experience, and also leverage some of the latest and greatest in technology. I mean, there's been a massive shift with AI, and we have been following it closely and really leveraging it in the best way that's fit to purpose for these workflows that people professionals need every day.
Yeah, thanks for bringing a use case to the table for us to discuss. This is one of those topics that can get lost in the semantics, but real world application is where the magic happens. So, the talent culture community is made up of businesses literally of all sizes. Please explain the paradigm shift to us here between a small and medium-sized business and a larger global organization when it comes to employee engagement. How has technology impacted how companies approach this?
Great question there. And that's really been at the center of the evolution we've seen at Cleary, because when we started, we were really targeting global public companies. And what we've just seen is that the kind of problems that exist in 2019 at a 2,000 or 10,000 employee company is coming down to a 150 person company. And let me explain. So back in the day, it wouldn't be until you hit several hundred employees that you even think about opening your second office, right? And then it's when you have your second office often that you start to think about some of these new dynamics and how culture is evolving within your company. Nowadays, it's pretty commonplace to have a 200 person technology company based in 20 time zones and about 200 home offices that get together a couple times a year. So those problems around communication and culture and scaling culture and efficiency come in much, much earlier. So there's this Dunbar's number, which is 150. It's a concept about 150 people is the number of relationships that anyone can have in their mind, human relationships. And it kind of translates into organizations as well. But that number keeps coming down lower and lower when these people are not in the same room, in the same time zone often, not to mention are working in dramatically different departments and software and intergenerationally. So because of that, some of these problems that were solved for with massive teams at bigger companies are problems that smaller companies with, again, HR teams of one or two need to somehow solve for. And that's where we're trying to step in. But the big shift that we're seeing, the secular shift, is the problem statements are just coming in down market because of the massively different way that we're all working now.
Well, thank you for addressing, scalability, as well as the important distinctions between organizations that look different, but they have similar underlying goals when it comes to their people. So, Thomas, tell us more about your people in culture offering.
So we have a whole product suite, which I think would be quite a great fit for the talent culture community if you want to check it out, book a demo. But something I would really particularly love to call to attention is, first of all, the employee journey mapping templates that we have, especially to help companies think about how they might consider their onboarding journey. Because if you really want to treat your employees like your customers, and such that they treat your customers well, it's really important to look at the perspective of the employee journey from a new hire, because this concept will help your team and potentially cross-functional team map out what you need to do to support a new hire from the moment they say accept an offer all the way to first day through the first 90 days. And you'll just notice all the different touch points they have with the organization, maybe an onboarding buddy, peers, the managers, VPs, the organization at large, HR, IT, and how you can really make it very, very complicated or very simple. And so going through this exercise can get you a sense of how it might feel to be a new hire. So I really recommend that, folks check out and go through that exercise with their teams if it's appropriate, especially around onboarding. And then the second resource I'd love to share with folks is, again, around internal communications and helping you do more with less. We want to help you get started with templates. So we've got some great free templates available around the ways you can communicate, taken from some of the best practices that we've seen from all across all of our customers that we want to put out there for free for folks to try and leverage.
Well, we sure covered a lot today. I want to thank you so much for your insights, Thomas. And thank you, our audience. I hope you all noted where you can access this excellent free resource. And we are here to make sure you have what you need. I highly recommend downloading this today because it's what, Thomas? It's free, right?
It is indeed.
We sure covered a lot today. Thank you so much for your insights, Thomas. To recap, some top takeaways from today's conversation include, number one, the rise of remote and hybrid work presents an opportunity for every organization to rethink the employee experience. Number two, it's important to understand the ROI on employee engagement and make sure all efforts are documented as part of the business case for an engaged, positive workplace culture. Number three, agility and scalability are possible with employee engagement initiatives, but it's important to understand how to do it with the right technology and support. Thanks again, Thomas. I really enjoyed our conversation and guarantee our community learned a lot. And listeners, be sure to check out gocleary.com/talent culture for a wealth of information on all things employee experience. That's gocleary.com/talent culture. TALENTCULTURE. And last but not least, the Talent Culture community wants to hear from you. How would you rate your employee experience from pre-boarding to onboarding to ongoing employee engagement? Do you feel like your organization has a strong grasp on what the employee experience should encompass? What takeaways from today could be simply embraced in your organization right away? Love to hear from you. Visit us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram to share your responses to these questions, or feel free to give me a shout out personally at Meghan M. Bureau on the socials or mbureau@talentculture.com. As always, thanks so much for listening to the Work Trends Podcast, the place to find meaningful connections at work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share our podcast with friends, colleagues, or send us a question on the socials using the hashtag WorkTrends. See you next time.